Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Apparently we have Cylon Base Star off the coast of New Jersey. It's a little Battlestar Galactica reference for you fellow nerds out there. These drones that are circling New Jersey and have been sighted elsewhere too. Big drones, like 6 feet wide, right?
Right. They're not small little trinkets that you get for Christmas.
And questions about whether or not they've been dispatched from some Iranian mothership off the coast of the eastern seaboard. I mean, seriously, have I slipped into a sci-fi saga? Jennifer Griffin, Fox News reporter, tried to get the scoop from Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh. Didn't go great.
On Congressman Jeff Van Drew, he says that the drones in New Jersey should be shot down. Is there any reason not to bring down these drones to figure out what they are?
Well, that's a decision for local law enforcement. If a drone or any activity is a threat to military installations, they always have the right for self-defense, and they can engage to respond to any potential risks. But with some of the drone activity or activities that you're referring to, there was not a threat to any military installation, so they didn't feel the need to engage.
Representative Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican from New Jersey, was just on the
we also had another Fox News reporter, Jackie Heinrich, tried to get some information from NSC spokesman John Kirby, and it didn't really go much better.
Because the analysis thus far in an investigation that is ongoing has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this.
Energy.
We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and letting you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity or, in fact, even criminal. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening statement.
It made more sense. Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair characterization. Yeah, I stand by my answer. When you get pantsed in government, you just say, I stand by the statement I was prompted to read when I came out here. I'm sticking with that story. Of course you are. Very KJP of him there, John Kirby. By the way, across the country in Northern California, a Chinese national was arrested on suspicion of flying a drone over Vandenberg Space Force Base and taking photos of the facility, according to the Department of Justice. So Sabrina Singh said, oh, well, if local law enforcement thinks it could be drones from an Iranian mothership in the skies over New Jersey, well, they can make a determination to make arrests. Well, over here in Northern California, it was federal law enforcement that decided to arrest this Chinese national when they learned or believed that there was something inappropriate going on that could compromise our national security. So how after, I know John Kirby does everything with alacrity, but how after almost 3 weeks do we still not know? This is Chinese spy balloon 2.0, it seems to me. And Bret Baier was equally incredulous on the set last night.
These things are 6 feet in diameter, we're told. They're massive. There's a lot of them, 49 sightings just over the past couple of days, or day and a half, I should say. No one knows what they are. How is that possible? I don't understand the lack of curiosity or the lack of engagement, more importantly, with these drones. Why isn't one being taken down? Why isn't one, they say it's not a threat. How do we know it's not a threat?
Well,
They come in peace. Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m., best-selling author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment, as well as the History Club, Duel Across Time. Bret, thanks for joining us. With the Biden administration, all things are possible, Bret.
Yeah, good morning. There's some stories that really get under your craw, and that it is a perfect example of why people don't trust government. There are some stories that just scream that, and this is one of them. Across the board, every time we are asking probing questions, they have nothing. They have to know. They have to, because otherwise we would not be dealing with these increasing numbers, not only in New Jersey and New York, but now San Diego, there's some down in the South. What is happening? They have to either know, or they can't get to the conclusion that it is not a foreign adversary and it's not a threat. They can't.
Well, what about Governor Murphy? I mean, why doesn't he step up and man up and try and take these down? He's acting like he needs the federal government to do it.
Exactly. So it is a giant, hamster wheel. Everybody says, well, no, the federal government needs to step in. And then the federal government says, no, that's up to local law enforcement if they choose to engage. Someone needs to do it. And the people in New Jersey are getting so frustrated. Some of these assemblymen that are coming on TV are really quite something, because they're hearing it from their constituents that see these things every night flying over their house. And it's disconcerting. Now, do I think it's aliens? No, but I don't know what it is, and I think it's time that we figure it out.
Do you think it's like an Orson Welles War of the Worlds, like it's a big put-on, and we're going to find out, oh, that was such great, and Spielberg's behind it or something?
I don't know. I mean, if it is a major thing. I mean, there's a movie coming out or something, like Drones 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is all like a Hollywood thing. I don't know. I think that the government is going to look silly.
So I heard that there's reports from neighbors saying that when they're up there for 6 to 7 hours at a time. And if they try and make eye contact with them, or if they think that they're being discovered, they automatically shut off. Is there any truth to that?
I've seen videos to that extent where they get, the lights shut off. I have seen a guy who flew his own drone to try to go up to one of these things, and then it lost all its power and kind of fell down like a gnat. I've seen a lot of stuff.
Oh my God, that
Drone wars.
It's truly, truly amazing. So,
Are we gonna have the resources to fund drone wars with all the money we're sending to Ukraine and now Syria? Do you think? I'm a little concerned.
I don't know, but I've actually talked to the incoming administration about this, and they have not been briefed on it specifically. And I've been having conversations with a lot of people. I'm going to get to the bottom of it on my show. I'm going to continue. I led with it 2 nights in a row because it just is really getting to me.
Well, I mean, it's just the whole thing, like Kirby, hey, we just started this investigation at the end of November. This is unknowable. That's sort of what you were getting to with, like, why you don't trust government. People are seeing this. It is absolutely knowable. Go get one of them. We have the greatest military in the history of the world. Go get one of the drones and tell us what it is. It's not that hard.
When he said the red statement that he brought out at the beginning, he said, well, actually, basically, they're not seeing what they're seeing, and most of these things are manned aircraft who are abiding by FAA rules. Okay, well, that's not true. Just look online. Just look online. There's like 1 million videos. They are not manned. There's not, unless those people are very small, they are not manned.
They could be tiny people from a distant galaxy. Bear. Okay.
Well, real quick, are there any military installations nearby that you think they could be spying on?
There are. And listen, it is a bipartisan thing. This is Senator Booker, Senator Gillibrand. There are a lot of people that Jackie read from that letter concerned because they are over military installations, they are over reservoirs, they are over utilities. And there's a nuclear site there, a nuclear reactor there. There's a lot of stuff in that area. Not to mention, not far from Bedminster, which is the second home of the president-elect. There are so many things that should raise alarm bells, and I think by the end of this week, maybe today, tomorrow, there's going to be someone who's going to take their own action. Like some citizen is going to do their own thing. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have a feeling one of these things is coming down.
Do you think it could be Greg Brady with a flashlight and a kazoo? Remember when he got?
I remember that.
That sound.
Yeah. Does that sound familiar to you at all?
Man, I tell you what, if it is,
it did Barry Williams, man. You got to keep an eye on that guy. Okay, all right. Well, you're going to get to the bottom of it, and John Kirby's not going to stop you. All right, good to hear. So we'll be watching you for that. Get your latest handle on the more quote unquote controversial cabinet nominations that Trump has advanced. Pete Hegseth at the top of the list. It seems almost there's unanimous agreement that he has brought himself back from the brink in the past week once he got clear to push back, and Trump and Vance backed that pushback that he was offering the D.C. press corps. So Hegseth and then the other nominees that have been targets of the left, do you see anybody in real trouble as it pertains to confirmation at this point?
I think Pete had a really good week and a half. I think those meetings, from everything we've been told, have gone well. That's not to say that it's not going to be a really bumpy hearing. It's not to say that some of these senators are saying things publicly that are nice, that they still may not vote for him. So remember, you only can lose 3 senators on the Republican side. And it's still a question. I think it's still up in the air about whether they are at the number 4 or 5, and I don't think it's solved. I don't think it's a done deal. I think Pete and Tulsi Gabbard are probably the biggest targets up there. Again, I think they've had good meetings, but these hearings are going to be crucial. I think Kash Patel is not going to have a problem. I actually think for all the controversy at the beginning, I think he's going to sail through. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to as well. And so it's going to be interesting once we start. It starts after Congress is seated January 6th. So that first couple of weeks of January will be packed with hearings that we'll probably be covering wall to wall.
And another topic, after Biden's mass pardon slash commutations yesterday, now we apparently, I would think, unless he is going to commute the sentences of those death row inmates per Ayanna Pressley, but I would think we would get an answer pretty soon into whether or not he is going to do any preemptive pardoning. Do you have any insight on that?
The Democrats I talk to don't want him to, but fear that he is going to. And I think that opens up a whole Pandora's box. If you pardon Anthony Fauci, what do you think that he did?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that opens up a lot of trouble. And could he pardon himself? I mean, it seems like crazy preemptive pardons, but I think that it's still in the mix, and obviously he has until January 20th to do it.
Well, what
and
about
his brother.
Cheney?
He's got his brother too, Jim. That's that in terms of the family.
Right, and everybody looks to what we haven't found out about all of the connections, and whether the Republicans were going to continue down those paths. I get the sense that the incoming administration is not too focused on that. It's not to say that it wouldn't happen in some circles, but I think they're focused more on what they need to get done, big things, very quickly.
And the first thing will be the border, don't you think?
Yeah, border. I
Reversing those
think his own
executive
pardon of January 6th, folks, case by case. I think the border, and I think that they're going to get these bills right out of the bat in Congress to kind of go alongside that.
Speaking of J6, so we get this DOJ Inspector General's report, where we finally get at least some information about the FBI's footprint on that day. 26 confidential human sources, 17 of whom at least criminally trespassed. And so I guess my question is, the Inspector General offered information that Christopher Wray kept telling us he couldn't be offered because it would jeopardize ongoing investigations. But there's still ongoing investigations because arrests are still being made. So either Christopher Wray was lying and he could have provided this information, or he and Garland should be outraged that the Inspector General did, right?
Right. Yeah, it's sticky. And the specifics there, they said there were 3 confidential human sources that were there on the behest of the FBI, and then 23 of them that just happened to be there. That doesn't really make sense, but okay. And then the other part is how did they factor into all of these criminal trials against these January 6 participants? And if they did, what does that mean for those cases? I think that's part of what they're going to be looking at. Also, none of them were arrested or tried for what they did, despite the fact that it's beyond what some of the other January 6 people did.
Right. They tried, the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office tried to cover this by saying, well, we generally have not prosecuted nonviolent offenders, but that's not true, because otherwise why would Trump have been running around the campaign trail in the run-up to the election saying, I'm going to pardon nonviolent J6 offenders?
Right, and there's a lot of them. So, I think this is, it's a fascinating story. I think that there's parts of January 6th, obviously, that there were violent offenders that they're going to have to look at closely as far as what goes forward. But how those confidential human sources factored into those cases is going to play a role.
I wanted to get your take real quick. Jeff Bezos heading to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago on next week and giving $1 million to the inaugural fund, and Meta doing the same thing. What's going on here, Brett?
It's called business.
Yeah, short answer.
I think that's what it is. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg went to dinner. Bezos is going to dinner. There is, it's better to be in the game than not in the game. I think it's what their thought is.
Maybe Bezos can take Trump up in Blue Origin and they can figure out that drone thing.
Stop it.
All I know is that Bezos has drones. Figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
In Elon Musk, they could take care of it in a weekend,
Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, 5 p.m. weekdays, best-selling author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment, as well as the History Club, Duel Across Time. Brett, thank you as always.
Rename it Drone Report this week.
Drone Wars.
Yes,
Drone Wars with Bret Baier. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Brett. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
You stink. I think you're going to have a good Christmas, all right? I like beef and